Hello and welcome to day 124 of 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlins Nyback. We're here talking about black issues here in America, wondering whether blacks are participating rightly, what white structure, how that impacts us, a lot of dimensions, a lot of things to talk about, which it's going to take more than a year to get at all the issues, but we're getting at least what I think are the bullet points to start conversation, to get the minds going. We're in part two of our failure, elements of the failure of the civil rights movement. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, I want to, kind of explain, get us thinking about some of the themes that we can keep before us as we traverse this year. It comes in two thoughts. First thought has two parts. First part is the concern for the black mind, the former slave mind. Is it still alive? Is it still being passed along to generation, and all that? And this, the second part, same coin, we just flip the coin over and wonder about the white mind of entitlement, expectation of favor, ease, privilege in society. Do those mindsets continue and prevail in America? And we find shades of thoughts, I'm sure, in every race in between. Now, my second thought is for financial literacy. For black folks, do we understand? Let's look at that literacy another way. But most of the time I'll talk about literacy as understanding, but how about the literacy of articulating to one another? I'm dissecting a very short book on the Federal Reserve System, easy to get. It's interesting information in there. But I have a good friend, black man, banker, president of a bank, small community bank. He didn't holler back. Black folks don't holler back to each other to explain what's going on. I have this forum here, but it's a very small audience. When I'm out in public, I'm usually working my ass off. So, there's reasons probably why black folks aren't more readily pausing and telling their story, much like maybe Alex Haley's family does with their tradition. And so I hope they're still continuing that. I hope somebody's doing that. My family does not do that. It's very discouraging sometimes how my family just really dropped the ball on some of that stuff. But that's not today. Maybe another offering. So that's my thought. Financial literacy. Today, the literacy of articulating, of rehearsing, of educating black folks about our past, potential future, what's happening in the present. We just, as a community, I notice we step into a space, a situation, and dare someone to correct us or point out things. I pointed out some stuff to this one brother. He had grammatical errors all over his work, and that bugs me to no end. Grammatical errors in written work, and it wasn't intentional. He wasn't being artistic. So I pointed these things out. I do that because I care. Foolish me. To this day, he looks at me funny, like, boy, I'm so dangerous to him because I showed him, where to put a period in the sentence. But that's the nature of black folks to some degree. All right, we'll get into that subject at another time as well. Now, listen, I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. I want you to check him out on here at YouTube. Easy to find. I bought a bundle of his work because finally he put shape and dimension and articulated my problem in America, what I was coming up against, what I couldn't get a breakthrough. Language is important. You know, because Black folks in general, the general community, is because that community is unable to articulate and talk about these subjects, they are left at the mercy of those who can, to some degree. And not Black folks, I'm talking white folks, because white folks holler back, educate, have more of a common, group norms, I'll say, with white folks, just is more consistent. Black folks have a group norm. What I know is crack cocaine and violence between gang members and rappers. There's an etiquette. There's a group norm among Black folks. Um, Denial is another one. But white folks have a group norm as well. They got their violence and denial and dysfunction as well. But talk to white folks. Ask them about their childhood. Ask them about the value of money, the value of knowing how to buy a home, knowing how to resist paying someone else's mortgages through rent. White folks know that. That's why they're up there. That's why those who don't understand, I don't understand. If I don't understand that I'm paying somebody's mortgage when I'm paying this huge rent on this house, it's not a cooperation. That person has another property, and they're begging somebody to move in there to pay that rent, and on and on and on. It's amazing. Study real estate. You'll find out what I'm talking about. It's real, and since that's the rules and that's the system, and now I'm understanding and are being able to articulate it, that's, I'm hopefully can turn my life in that direction and make some things happen for me. Now, but Dr. Anderson, though, he really brought me out of a spiral with his works, and I bought 3 of his books immediately, shortly after watching his videos. I'm like, that's it. That's what I was looking for. First book I read was A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. We are referencing this book. We're in part 2 of the Failure of Civil Rights piece. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. You see behind me the hashtag #US2 movement. Black women, I got to check in and see what's going on there. I don't go there much as Black folks. And I'm not a big internet guy. I like books and things in my life, old school. Everybody else is distracted on their little device nowadays. Oh, check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a black Facebook. And if you found me here on the World Wide Web, you can find your community any flavor. It's out there. Start your own. How about that? And finally, we take a fictional look every once in a while. We want to pick up the pace in this book, actually. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe's excellent work, fictional life of slave life in America, but it's based on a lot of fact. It's very important, and based on this forum, we kind of know why it's not readily referenced. People think they know what that book's about. I thought I knew what Uncle Tom's Cabin meant and all that. I had no clue, and I encourage you to read that. Get the book, read it all the way to the end. Very important work in there. Your mind will change on a lot of things. All right, with our last few minutes here, day 124, we're looking at a second part of our the question out of a Black History Reader is question 100. What was the scenario that led to the death of the civil rights movement? I think it was more than one scenario that Dr. Anderson points out. I would have asked the question differently. There goes my mind thinking about the written work again, but we won't get stuck on that. What he points out a lot of things. We talked yesterday about exclusivity in making, getting our needs met and the resources here in America and all that. And we're going to talk today about some 4 or 5 specific issues with the failure of the Black civil rights movement. Its flaws, things left unaddressed, and whatnot that exacerbates Black folks coming and participating at the table of wealth and resources. Remember, we don't want symbols. We got to. I mean, civil rights, social integration was a failure, yet it was necessary so that we from that experiment. Now we know we need to come away with wealth, resources, space, physical space. I mean, things of that nature to really validate our presence here on this soil. We're still kind of cast forth, and unfortunately, see the social integration, civil rights stuff. We give power to white power structure, and it's always begging with hat in hand for access to wealth and resources in America. When you really break down the dynamic, as soon as we continue to do that, it just emboldens and empowers the white structure. It doesn't, as long as they are, it's like the mule and the carrot. It's this bait that we just go along and we're trying to get that carrot. We need to let go of the carrot. We can't get it because the closer we get to it, the bar gets stretches out further and further. The more we reach up, the bar just gets further and further up. You've got to notice that in America. And let's even put the race issue aside. Let's talk strictly economics. Okay, you got minimum wage. Oh, great, the minimum wage goes up. But because, we don't understand inflation, financial literacy, it's all relative. There ain't nothing went up. It's just a volume issue. And the ignorant, like myself, like I'm trying not to be, the ignorant think they have more money to spend. Well, that's not true when prices are going up all over the place. It'd be different if they raised the minimum wage and we had 1962 prices for gas and resources and stuff. Then you're talking some movement, But to a degree, the government knows that people, they say minimum wage goes up, all of a sudden there's spending sprees and all this stuff, and we enrich the wealthy. And then once we're broke and realize the prices have gone up and stuff, we complain about the upper class and the super rich. You know, I listened to a video on my MP3 player. I have talks and a lot of rock and roll. And one of the things that come across, there's hundreds of entries I have on there, as a guy comes on, he says, you know, if all the money was equally dispersed to everyone within a short period of time, a very small minority would have the majority of that wealth, and you'd have a whole poor class all over again, you know, because we're ignorant, we're not stupid, we don't lack ability, we lack the knowledge of what's going on in the system and how to engage it. So, you know, let's talk about some of these points here. Dr. Anderson has 4 specific points. I added one that's starting to consistently come up and is relevant to what's happening this weekend. First flaw was that what the first flaw was wanting civil rights and social integration. You know, 1954, Brown v. Board of Education. You know, we want to enter white schools. Now, we don't want to do that. It's not happening in a vacuum. Black schools did not, you know, have the resources. They weren't attractive. You know, the black school didn't. The standards were unequal between white schools and the black schools. White schools were better funded, better neighborhoods, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, the black schools are challenged. You know, who's going to educate black children? Things like that. So it's an understandable move to want to integrate, but you know, you don't have white folks trying to integrate the black schools. You got the black people wanting to come over, and a big reason for that is the condition of black schools and black education. Okay, but having said that, it just set up this thing where blacks keep trying to broach that white curtain, that ceiling, that window, or whatever, but in doing that, it makes white power that much more powerful, and it entitles them to have control. We are giving them giving away so much, and we ain't even fighting, you know, for that. See, it would have been different if we had fought for the resources to make the black schools better. That's a different thing. That's a big chunk of the argument of what I'm awake and aware of now that I've been doing this for a couple days now. The second flaw was that the black leadership didn't realize the need for economic privilege. I put in my notes is that we were economically terrorized by white power. At the Freedmen's Bank, robbery, all kinds of financial issues. You know, you go into the poorest black neighborhoods, the billboard signs, or I'm a pretty tall guy, so I can knock my head on the billboard signs that have cigarettes, alcohol ads, plenty of dysfunction just advertised in black especially black and minority neighborhoods. We can throw that in, but you don't see that in a gated white community. You know, gin and malt liquor and cigarette menthol cigarettes. The white community, they're the people that have invested in those products that are almost guaranteed wealth because black folks are going to serve them just by willingly. It's just like drug dealers. I used to do a lot of drugs, a lot of cocaine in my life, and I'd go sweat all day, stealing and all kinds of stuff, and I'd bring my money to them, you know, for that little 5 minutes of fame and chasing the rest all night. Yeah, yeah. So I get it. Third flaw, no national plan. We get into Dr. Anderson's book, his national plan. He put it in there. He rightly uh, expands on it in his national plan to empower Black America. Um, and his fourth, there's no core. He he cites three elements needed for core components of change to most any movement. And let's look at it. First is grassroots movement, something small, that dedicated, die hard, skin me alive, burn me at the stake core of people that just believe in the issue and are sacrificing. Start small. If you're a religious person, that one of the things that are easy illustration is Jesus and the 12 disciples, right? Uh, you know, Judas Iscariot fell off, but he was easily replaced. Well, all that. But anyway, there's a core, and even in that core, he took off James, John, and Peter. A very potent group. James and John, they're sons of thunder. You know, Peter was very charismatic. So grassroots. No research. No research. Nothing to give blacks the data on. See, black people. We see it in society. We feel it. I feel it out in the public and all that stuff. But what are the statistics? What are the studies done? What can I read? What community can I engage? Uh, just to talk factually, statistically about some of these issues. And finally, financial support from and he would probably say a black overclass or an elite wealthy uh, organization to put some dollars into funding something. So like the NAACP doesn't work for free. It's a funded organization. He doesn't really promote the NAACP, but any organization is going to need some financing. That's just the truth of it. We don't get manna like the Old Testament. We don't go to our local supermarket, fill up our grocery basket, come to the checkout line and say it's no problem. Social integration, civil rights. Dr. Anderson makes a great joke about that consistently in a bunch of his videos. It's very appropriate. Finally, I added a fifth one. We're in Cinco de Mayo weekend. As this gets hopefully recycled for a long time. I don't know what this is going to fall on, but we're heading into Cinco de Mayo weekend. Cinco de Mayo, Mexico's liberation from France, 5th of May, 18 something. And, black folks in America don't have a celebration. We try in some Christmas, Kwanzaa, I don't know. Well, we spin our wheels and a lot of issues, but we have no focal point. You know, when was the Emancipation Proclamation? Which Emancipation Proclamation are we talking about? See, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know our history, our ancestors, and all that. Uh, a celebration would be important. Unfortunately, here's the problem, and I'm not radicalized or anything, but all these celebrations have to do with violence to some degree. Cinco de Mayo's, you're violent. It's a violent separation from France. 4th of July, we're violent, getting ready to violently separate from England. You name a people with a celebration, it's a celebration that's got some violence behind it. We're kind of stuck there, and I'm not advocating that. That's where it's kind of going backwards. I don't know, but even maybe Dr. King's or any of the marches, can we do something, black folks? We don't have anything. You know, there's no, we don't have anything to galvanize. Uh, this is and Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican deal, but all these Puerto Ricans are going to be pouring out in the street anyway. But you're going to see uh, they're all going to have parades, cars. They're going to gather. Um, Streets will be shut down in my city. You know, they come out en masse. There's music. You know, black folks don't have any of that. So we got a long way to go. And those 4 points of Dr. Anderson's are good. But my fifth point about a celebration, something to wake us up, get us going, we're lacking that. That's going to kill us. That's going to keep us killed. I'll mention some of the other issues. We're always embattled politically, and let's just talk about some of the tumultuous 60s we could talk about. Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers assassinated. Eldridge Cleaver, Angela Davis, Black Panthers criminalized. Once I don't know, once when white, especially conservative white power sees some of that structure change, they make adjustments. I'm not saying they're directly responsible for those things, but it's the culture. It's what we talked about at the beginning of this piece about the carrot and the ceiling. And as black folks rise up and emerge, the ceiling gets a little higher. White folks compensate and just continue to rise up. Black folks following that carrot, but the carrot just stays just out of reach. I saw there's a martial arts movie. I used to watch a lot of that stuff, kung fu fighting and all that. But this kung fu master was so powerful that the more force try to attack him with, he just floated away. It was like two poles of a magnet, similar poles, north and north, against each other. And the harder you punched, the easier the master evaded the attack. And that's the same thing happening here in America as black people get it together. Just step outside of the picture and observe, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. That's something I knew even before I ran into Dr. Anderson's work. Out of time. I don't even know if I got to all my stuff. There's just a lot of talking points when we go to understand Black life in America. A lot of dimensions, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of reasons to be exclusive. That's where we started this two-parter. Come back and join us again tomorrow. I do not know what I'm going to look at, but I can guarantee you that it's going to be relevant to the Black experience in America. We'll see you soon. Please come back tomorrow. I'm Thomas Nyback. This is day 124 out of the way, 365 days towards racial change. Bye-bye.